"You're so beautiful," he murmured, voice low and smooth, eyes locking onto mine with an intensity I wasn't prepared for. "Relax. Just trust me. I'm here to help." His touch was meant to be clinical, professional, but there was something in his gaze, in the way he leaned in, closer than a doctor ever should, that made a chill run through my body. I reassured myself it was harmless. He was gay. It was all in my head, but in that quiet, sterile room, with my husband just steps away, the world began to tilt. I'm a 40-year-old black woman, curvy, confident, a practicing Muslim, and married to a man who has stood by me through every chapter of our shared life. Kareem and I met in graduate school, both pursuing our MBAs, both children of immigrants who understood the weight of expectations and the price of dreams. For over 15 years, we've been each other's strength, having weathered storms that could have torn many couples apart. When he lost his job during the recession, I watched him struggle with his identity as a provider, as a man, but instead of letting pride destroy him, he threw himself into supporting my career. He cooked, he cleaned, he networked tirelessly. When we faced the sorrow of 3 miscarriages in 2 years, he held me through nights of sobbing, whispering prayers in Arabic until I finally slept. And when my family questioned our decision to move to Seattle for my promotion, he stood firm, telling them that my success was our success. Our marriage isn't just a relationship, it's a sacred commitment, one that exists in the eyes of Allah, our families, and ourselves. I wear my hijab proudly, not just as a symbol of modesty, but as a declaration of the values I live by. Every morning, as I carefully pin it in place, I think about what it represents: dignity, faith, strength. And every morning, I thank Allah for blessing me with a man who sees me, really sees me, and loves me through it all. Which is why what happened haunts me even more. Because I broke something sacred. I let something happen I never thought I'd allow. And though I didn't plan it, didn't want it, didn't even fully understand it as it unfolded, I still carry the guilt like a scar carved into my spirit. It began with a health concern that I tried to ignore for months. Persistent lower abdominal pain that would wake me at night. Erratic bleeding that didn't follow any pattern. Overwhelming fatigue that coffee couldn't touch. I tried to hide it, but Kareem noticed. He always notices. He was the one who pushed for answers. He researched specialists, vetted reviews, asked around in the Muslim community. He insisted on coming with me to every appointment, rearranging his work schedule without complaint. That's just who he is, always protecting, always caring. We chose a gynecologist who came highly recommended. Drive, Marcus, Harvard Medical School, fellowship at Johns Hopkins, glowing reviews from patients who praised his bedside manner and cultural sensitivity. And most importantly, he was openly gay. Kareem even joked that it was the first time he felt completely relaxed about me seeing a male gynecologist. Finally, he said, "A doctor who won't look at you the way other men do." I remember dressing that morning with extra care, not for anyone else, but for myself. My favorite blue hijab, the silk one Kareem brought back from Turkey, a modest dress in navy that made me feel elegant and professional. Even my underwear was carefully chosen, the matching set I saved for special occasions. Kareem noticed, complimented me, said I looked beautiful even on a doctor's visit, 15 years in, and he still looked at me like that. Drive, Marcus's office was modern and warm, all soft lighting and calming colors. The waiting room played gentle instrumental nasheeds, and there was a prayer room available for patients. He greeted us with practiced friendliness, his demeanor polished and attentive. The consultation was thorough. He asked all the right questions, listened carefully, took detailed notes. Kareem, always in tune with my body and moods, chimed in helpfully about symptoms I'd forgotten to mention. Everything felt above board. Then came the examination. Drive, Marcus explained each step clearly, used the right medical terms, kept his tone professional. His nurse, a hijabi herself, helped me change into the gown. Kareem asked if I wanted him to stay. I said yes. Having him nearby made me feel safer. Halfway through, Drive, Marcus looked at my husband and said, "Mr. Rahman, would you mind going to the pharmacy downstairs? I've written a prescription for some preliminary blood work, and you'll beat the rush if you go now." He handed him a slip, smiling calmly. Kareem looked to me. I nodded. He kissed my forehead before leaving. That kiss, it lingers in my memory like a wound that never closes. The nurse had stepped out to answer a phone call. The door had barely closed when the energy in the room changed. It was subtle at first, his questions shifting from medical to personal. "Does your husband satisfy you? Have you ever felt trapped by your faith? Don't you ever want to be free?" I laughed nervously. trying to steer things back to the clinical. But something had shifted. His eyes were no longer neutral. His hands began to move with a strange familiarity, touching in ways that had nothing to do with medicine. I froze. I want to tell you, I stood up, told him off, reported him immediately, but that's not what happened. My body shut down. I was no longer in the room, not really. I was hovering somewhere above, watching myself go still while his voice dripped poison into my ear. No one has to know, he whispered. This isn't cheating, I'm your doctor. And besides, isn't this what you really want? To break free? I didn't say yes. I didn't move. I just endured. And when it was over, I lay there trembling, too shaken to speak. Just then, the door opened and Kareem walked in, cheerful, holding the little pharmacy bag. Got it, he said. Drive. Marcus was back behind his desk, scribbling in my chart like nothing had happened. The nurse returned, apologizing for the interruption. We went to lunch afterward at our favorite halal spot. Kareem, as always, was funny and kind and attentive. He ordered my usual, chicken shawarma with extra garlic sauce, and talked about weekend plans. I smiled, I nodded, I even laughed, but inside I was somewhere else, lost, nauseated, screaming in silence. That night, when he reached for me, I turned away. I blamed the fatigue. He kissed my shoulder and held me close, and I hated myself for letting him touch me with such love, not knowing the storm I was hiding. Since that day, guilt has lived inside me like a shadow. It follows me to work, where I can barely focus on quarterly reports and team meetings. It follows me into my prayers, where I struggle to find the peace that once came so easily. It follows me into the quiet moments before sleep, when Kareem's steady breathing beside me feels like an accusation. I find myself crying without reason, panicking in the shower, feeling disgust at my own reflection. I've started wearing darker colors, as if I could somehow hide in plain sight. My assistant asked if I was okay after I jumped when a male colleague touched my shoulder during a presentation. I blamed it on too much coffee. I've tried to report him. I've opened complaint forms on the medical board website a dozen times. I've drafted emails that sit in my folder, unsent, but I always freeze. What would I say? That I let it happen? That I didn't scream? That I didn't fight? Would anyone believe me? A successful executive, a grown woman, a person who prides herself on strength? Would Kareem believe me? Would he blame himself for leaving the room? Would he still look at me the same way? Would he wonder if, deep down, I wanted it to happen? I've read endlessly about trauma responses, about tonic immobility, how sometimes the body goes into shutdown instead of fight or flight. I know that up to 88% of sexual assault survivors report feeling paralyzed during the attack, and though I understand it intellectually, the guilt still gnaws at me like acid. I tell myself I didn't cheat, but then I wonder, if my silence let it happen, does that make me complicit? And then there's my faith, the very foundation of who I am. I still pray 5 times a day, still fast during Ramadan, still give zakat, I still wear my hijab, but now, there's a crack in the mirror I once held up with pride. I feel unworthy, stained, broken. I sit in the mosque and can't meet anyone's eyes. During Jumu'ah prayer, I stand in the back, afraid that others can somehow sense what happened. The hardest part? Kareem's love hasn't changed. If anything, he's more patient, more nurturing. He notices I'm not myself, but he never pushes. He just keeps showing up, bringing me tea when I'm working late, offering a shoulder rub when I seem tense, talking about weekend getaways to help me relax. Last week, he surprised me with a spa day at a women-only facility, thinking it would help with my stress. And each time he does something thoughtful, the knife turns deeper. Some days I convince myself keeping this secret is the kindest thing. Other days, I feel like I'm living a lie that poisons everything it touches. I don't know which is worse, telling the truth and breaking his heart, or hiding it and watching mine wither. I know I'm not alone. Medical assault is real, and studies show it happens far more often than we'd like to believe, and so is the silence that follows. But statistics don't comfort you when you're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if you're still the person you thought you were. Yesterday, I saw Drive, Marcus's face in the newspaper. He's being honored for his work with underserved communities. The article praised his sensitivity to cultural differences, his understanding of religious constraints. I threw up in my office bathroom. So for now, I carry on. I put on my hijab each morning, smoothing it carefully in the mirror. I go to work, lead my team, make decisions that affect hundreds of people. I come home, make dinner, help our nieces with their homework when they visit, I kiss Kareem goodnight and pretend not to notice when he watches me with worried eyes. And I live with this weight, this grief that has no name. Maybe someday I'll tell him. Maybe someday I'll report Drive, Marcus. Maybe someday I'll forgive myself. But today, all I can do is breathe, pray, and hope that Allah sees my broken heart and still finds me worthy of healing. Because despite everything, I still believe in healing. I have to. It's the only way forward through this darkness, even if I have to feel my way one breath at a time.